Deep within the embrace of the ancient rainforest lay the village of Basoko. Life here was woven into the rhythm of the trees and the breath of the earth. But even in this place of natural wonder, a shadow lingered. An old man named Enyuka walked among them, his steps guided by a gnarled cane. His eyes held secrets, and his presence cast a chill that the villagers could not explain. They feared him, whispered about him, but none dared cross his path. The heart of Basoko was its river, a ribbon of life that fed their crops and quenched their thirst. It was their lifeline, their blessing. Yet the river held a dark secret, a sorrow that clung to the water like mist. Children disappeared near its banks, not one or two, but many over the years, vanishing without a trace. The river gave life, but it also seemed to take it away. Suspicion, heavy and unspoken, fell upon Enyuka. His strangeness, his isolation, his connection to the wild places. It all pointed to him. But suspicion was not proof, and the disappearances remained a haunting mystery. Then came Binga, his wife Ikela, and their young son Bondo. They arrived in Basoko seeking refuge from a drought that had withered their own land. They were newcomers, outsiders in a village bound by old ways and deep-seated fears. Binga was a man of the earth, but with new ideas. He brought innovative farming techniques, methods that coaxed abundance from the soil even in challenging times. His fields flourished, yielding harvests the villagers had only dreamed of. His family prospered, their small compound becoming a beacon of success. But prosperity in Basoko was a double-edged sword. Binga's success sparked envy, a bitter weed that grew quickly in the hearts of some villagers, including the old man Enyuka. Whispers turned to threats, small acts of sabotage aimed at driving the newcomers away. The villagers, bound by tradition and resentment, saw Binga's methods as a challenge to their own struggles. Yet, Binga remained steadfast. He met hostility not with anger, but with quiet determination and hard work. He refused to be driven out. Slowly, his resilience began to wear down the villagers' resistance. He shared his knowledge, offered help to those in need, and performed acts of kindness that chipped away at the wall of mistrust. Binga was not just a successful farmer, he was becoming a part of the community. As Binga's influence grew, so did Enyuka's resentment. The old man watched Binga earn the respect he himself had never known. This newcomer, this outsider, was unraveling the fear that had been Enyuka's shield for so long. A sinister plan began to form in Enyuka's mind, a cruel scheme to strike at the heart of Binga's happiness. He would use the river, his secret ally, to reclaim his power and punish the man who had dared to thrive. He began to lure the village children, including young Bondo, near his secluded hut. He spoke to them in hushed tones, filling their heads with tales of wonders hidden at the river's edge. He promised them sights and experiences beyond their wildest dreams. Despite the warnings from their parents, the children, filled with curiosity and the thrill of forbidden adventure, were drawn to Enyuka's words. Bondo and his friends agreed to meet the old man by the river. At the appointed time, they gathered near the water, their young hearts beating with anticipation. Enyuka was there, his eyes gleaming, but as the children watched, a terrifying change came over him. Before their eyes, Enyuka's frail human form twisted and contorted. He transformed into a monstrous creature of the river, scales replacing skin, limbs elongating into powerful fins. Panic erupted among the children. They scattered in terror, screaming as the creature thrashed in the shallow water. They ran back towards the village, their minds reeling from the horror they had witnessed. When the villagers gathered the frightened children, a terrible discovery was made. Bondo was missing. The children, still trembling, recounted the monstrous transformation and Bondo's disappearance. The old fears, the dark suspicions about Enyuka and the river, resurfaced with chilling clarity. They rushed to inform Binga. Grief and a burning rage consumed Binga when he heard the news. His son, his beloved Bondo, taken by the same darkness that had haunted Basoko for so long. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that Enyuka was responsible. Binga confronted Enyuka, his voice raw with pain and fury. The entire village, their fear now overshadowed by collective anger and sorrow, stood behind him. They demanded answers. Enyuka, back in his frail human form, stood before them, denying everything. His eyes were cold, his face a mask of feigned innocence. He claimed he knew nothing of Bondo's disappearance, nothing of any transformation. But Binga saw the lie in his eyes. He would not be swayed by the old man's deceit. Binga rallied the villagers, instructing them to gather at Enyuka's home the following morning. The time for whispers and suspicion was over. At dawn, the villagers assembled outside Enyuka's hut. Binga stood at the front, his face grim, a bow clutched in his hand, an arrow tipped with potent poison nocked and ready. He entered the hut, the villagers waiting in tense silence outside. Inside, Binga faced Enyuka. He raised the bow, the poisoned arrow aimed directly at the old man's heart. He demanded the truth, threatening to end Enyuka's life if he did not confess. Under the shadow of death, the mask finally fell. Enyuka, his voice raspy, confessed to the disappearances. He admitted to luring the children, to his monstrous form, to the dark power he wielded over the river. He revealed his terrible secret. He could temporarily pause the children, holding them in a state between worlds before ultimately sacrificing them to the river's power, a power that sustained his own unnatural life. Enyuka, his confession wrung from him, was led by Binga and the villagers towards the river. The air crackled with tension and anticipation. The time had come for the truth to be revealed to all. At the riverbank, before the eyes of every man, woman, and child in Basoko, Enyuka transformed. The horrifying change rippled through his body, the monstrous river creature emerging from the shell of the old man. There could be no more doubt, no more suspicion. The creature, Enyuka in his true terrible form, entered the water. With a mighty splash, he plunged into the depths, the river churning around him. And then, as if released from a spell, Bondo emerged from the water, unharmed, confused, but alive. The villagers gasped, tears of relief streaming down their faces. But the public exposure of Enyuka's transformation, the breaking of his secret, triggered an ancient curse tied to his power. As the river creature began to shift back towards human form, the curse took hold. Enyuka died instantly upon completing the transformation, his body collapsing lifelessly on the riverbank. His dark power was extinguished, his reign of terror over. Bondo's return brought an overwhelming wave of joy and peace back to Basoko. The long, dark mystery surrounding the river and the disappearances was finally dispelled. The shadow that had hung over the village for so long was lifted. The villagers were finally free from the fear that had bound them. Binga and Ikela's family was whole again, their ordeal ending not in sorrow but in miraculous reunion. Basoko, scarred by tragedy but cleansed by truth, found a new beginning, ready to face the future without the weight of Enyuka's secret and the river's curse.